All right, who's here? Okay. How you doing, Nat? Okay, you're muted. There you
Yeah,
go.
I just remembered. Sorry.
Okay. And I think we have the
It's nice to
captioners in
meet you.
here.
Yes, sir, I'm here.
It's not
Okay.
showing closed captioning icon.
He's just a moment. He's adding it. He just joined us. Yeah.
Are you using cart or
Hang on,
But-
hang on. He's setting up.
Okay, now I don't see captions turned on your end of it.
Okay, so how do I do that?
Okay.
Go to more.
Yes, and so you will see an option to allow a manual captioner.
And okay, where's that? Where do I go? I go to more, and then I go to captions,
Yes.
and then where do I go after that? Manual
What-
captioner.
Yes.
There you go. And then I say assign it to.
Well, there's also another option. There's a box that says save
Okay.
save transcript.
Okay, hang on real quick. Let me go back to where I was. Let's start over. I'm going to captions, right?
Yes.
Okay, now where do you want me to go?
Hold on. I
Caption
have to.
setting.
yes.
Okay, I call this meeting to order at 3:10 PM. May we have roll call, please?
Chair Gish,
Here.
Award Black,
Here.
Pam Parfit,
Here.
Angelique Chavez,
Present.
Miriam Jawar,
Excused.
Eli Fresquez,
Excused. He may come later, but he was called into a meeting.
Gina Maria Opalescent,
Here.
Kendra Garcia,
Present.
Christopher Pamir.
Excused.
You have quorum.
Thank you so much. Next is approval of the agenda. Are there any changes or amendments to the agenda that need to be made? The only thing I will say is if Eli isn't able to attend, then I will table his items when we get to them.
Okay.
My hope is that he will be here, so.
So we all need a motion if we're going to approve the agenda.
I so move.
Second.
Okay.
May we have roll call vote, please?
Chair Gish,
Yes.
Aurora Black,
Yes.
Pam Parfit,
Yes.
Angelique Chavez,
Yes.
Gina Maria Opalescent,
Yes.
Kendra Garcia.
Yes.
Your minutes have been approved.
Thank you. Next is approval of minutes for, I'm going to do them in order. So next is February 7th, along with the CART transcript, because they're technically one package.
Okay, what was that again? I was called away.
Yeah, so next is approval of minutes, and I'm going to
Mhm.
do them in order. So starting with February 7th with the minutes and the CART transcript, because they're technically one package.
Actually, we've been instructed by the attorney's office that the minutes and the transcripts are separate documents.
Okay.
And
Is
that is
there a
going to be
reason for that?
they are not the official minutes. They are a transcript provided by a provider, and they have been modified and are not minutes. But they are provided to anyone who wishes to have.
And how would someone go about requesting those if they want them?
They can make a request in writing to us and we'll send it to them.
Who is
That's why
us?
we're still making the changes.
Who is us
The
specifically?
city,
So
city of Santa Fe.
who in the
And
city of
that's why
Santa
we
Fe?
have myself,
Okay.
the liaison. And we'll put that all together. That just recently happened and we'll get through that. That's one of the things I was going to talk about during staff.
So approval of the minutes.
Are we just needing a motion?
I'm asking if there's any amendments or anything needed to the minutes.
Okay.
I find it confusing after number 12 adjourn. There's a, I don't know, it just looks like it was. And also after number H, there's just like extra forms slotted in. You know what I'm saying? Like that you would fill out if we had voted on something, but we didn't vote on anything after adjourn. And we didn't vote on anything it's, let's see what page is this, 7 of 8. Oh, it looks like the form was just put in twice on number H. Let's see if there's any other spots. So I mean, it's just a simple take it out kind of thing, because it didn't have any content. It looks like it was just kind of slipped in by accident. Do you find where I'm saying this?
I can see it.
Okay. So I would like those two contentless bits to be removed from the minutes.
The minutes are generated by PrimeGov. And so we answer their questions and then they generate the actual minutes that is given to us. So let me pull up and see what you're saying.
Yeah, look after adjourn. That's the most obvious one. Look at the very end. Look at, see, it's this a little form that they fill out when, for anything we move on, but they just slipped it in a couple of extra times.
A
Once after
motion,
adjourn, and once in section 8, they have it by accident empty, and then they have it filled out as it should be.
page. Yeah, I see that.
Yeah.
That is, okay, it says H and it says motion, seconded it by, and then item, so forth. So, yeah,
Yeah.
And
And
so
then
the-
on the next page, see on page 7,
yes.
it has the actual filled
Yeah.
out thing.
Mm-hmm.
So
And
that's
that's-
what I'm saying.
Yeah, and that was generated by PrimeGov. So
Okay.
that's something now we can't go in there and change it or
Okay.
modify it. That's up to how they're gonna deal with that. But the
Okay.
content, for the most part, is accurate.
Yeah.
And that's what we're approving is content, more so. So that's what we wanna stick to. I can't control, or I don't think anyone else can control how, a computer system's gonna kind of produce something that's not entirely
Yeah.
perfect in that way.
Yeah. There
Yeah,
might
I
be
mean-
somebody over there has to kind of go through and tweak.
Yeah, and there may be something wrong with the master setup on their end, and that's something that they're gonna have to deal with.
They need to tweak.
Yeah, and I'll bring it to their attention and
Oh,
hopefully
good.
that'll be fixed. But
Yeah.
as far as changing it for this, highly unlikely. Either you approve it or you don't, and we're asking you to approve
It's
the
not,
content.
there's no content in it, so.
Okay, yeah, the content issue is all we're looking at. So there you go. I mean, so if you could ask us to change it, but the chances of it being changed is almost not gonna happen.
Well, I'm just glad you're gonna point it out to them so they can
Yeah.
fix it.
That's
I'm
all we
sure
can
it's
do.
not just us,
Yeah, I'm sure there's other committees that it's happening to.
Are there any amendments or changes then to the minutes for February 7th? If not, may we have a motion to approve the minutes as they are?
I so motion. Can you please let me in on my computer too?
And I'll second it.
Okay.
For the February 7th meetings, Chair Gish,
Yes.
Aurora Black,
Yes.
Pam Parfit,
Yes.
Angelique Chavez,
Yes.
Gina Maria Opalescent.
Yes. May I ask who the host is, please?
Right now I am. Daniel and I share it.
Can you let me in on my computer? I made it here.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
There you go. And Kendra Garcia. Sorry.
Yes.
Motion carried.
And then approval of the transcript separately, as it has been amended, if there's any changes. There is a couple that I can make really quickly since they're not going to be part of the public record. Just like disability pride was a question mark. I saw that. But other than that, I think that it was fine. And if there's anything else that was unclear that anyone saw, that would be grateful. I would be grateful to have that be stated. If there's no other amendments other than that, may we have a motion to approve the transcript as amended?
I so move.
Second.
May we have roll call, please?
Chair Gish,
Yes.
Aurora Black,
Yes.
Pam Parfit,
Yes.
Angelique Chavez,
Yes.
Gina Maria Opalescent,
Yes.
Kendra Garcia.
Yes.
Motion
Next.
passed.
Thank you. Next is approval of special meeting minutes from February 14th. Are there any amendments or changes that need to be made to the special meeting minutes? If there are not, may we have a motion to approve the minutes as they are?
So moved.
Second.
May we have roll call, please?
Chair Gish,
Yes.
Aurora Black,
Yes.
Pam Parfit,
Yes.
Angelique Chavez,
I'm going to abstain. I wasn't at the meeting, so I'm sorry. I don't feel comfortable voting. I apologize.
Gina Maria Opalescent,
Yes.
and Kendra Garcia.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. Next is public comments. Are there any public comments from anyone?
Pam.
Pam, go ahead. Oh,
Believe this is where you said I could make this announcement, Daniel?
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, as
Hearing
an
loss,
individual.
Hearing Loss Association of America, Santa Fe chapter has a meeting scheduled for Saturday, March 23rd at 10 a.m. It's free, and the subject is over-the-counter hearing aids. Are they for me? So if you are working with people in a category, it's a very accessible and much less expensive if you are in the category of a mild to moderate hearing loss to get over-the-counter hearing aids. So It's not on our third Saturday of the month because the person giving the talk is not available. It's on the fourth Thursday of the month, this month only. Everyone is always welcome at our meetings. They always have different subject matter. And I'm just thinking there's a lot of people out there that you all might have access to that would want to come to this meeting. It's at the Board of Realtors office, and the address is 510 North Guadalupe Street. There'll be ASL interpreters, a hearing loop, and you just show up, no reservations. No charge.
Thank you, Pam. Next is, I see Jen Weber has her hand up. Go ahead.
Yes, hi, good afternoon, Chair Gish and committee members. I'm happy to be with you again. I'm Jen Weber. I'm the president of Bike Santa Fe. And I was with you at your last regular meeting and spoke in support of the pedestrian and bicycle maintenance facility maintenance resolution. And it's on your action agenda today. So I'm just here to express Bike Santa Fe's support for the resolution and to ask for yours as well, and to answer any questions that you may have when it comes up, if I can be helpful in that way. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you being here. Kendra, go ahead.
One question was for Pam, at least on the event that you were sharing. Do you mind writing that information either in the chat box or if you can like email it to us, whichever one would be easiest?
Is Daniel, I need your advice. I am allowed to email it as a request or put it in chat as request.
You're on mute, Daniel.
First time. Anyway, it's an announcement. You're doing it as an individual in the public comment setting. So if someone asks you for it, go ahead and provide it to them.
In email form or chat form?
Either one.
Okay, I'll see if I can make chat work.
Okay.
Thank you.
Next, we have, are there any more public comments? Remember that we can make public comments on behalf of someone who can't be present as well. So if that ever happens, feel free to speak up on someone's behalf. If there are no more public comments, then next is Nat Dean, if you are ready for your presentation on service animals in Santa Fe.
Hi, I'm going to share screen.
Excellent. There we go.
Okay. I have to move the captioning. Okay, so hopefully this is showing for everyone.
It is.
And now I'm also, it's getting in the way of my. So my name is Nat Dean. I have been a service animal handler for over 35 years. I have my 5th dog. So my presentation is going to cover a lot of ground very quickly. So it says increasing accessibility and inclusion for all, a presentation for the City of Santa Fe's Mayor's Committee on Disability with today's date. And it's not advancing for me. Okay, how? Okay, increasing accessibility inclusion for all service animals in Santa Fe, New Mexico. A brief peek into daily challenges. That's me with Buddy, my 5th dog, and captioning. I'm also a survivor of multiple traumatic brain injuries, and I have an auditory processing disorder, and I use sign language. I sometimes can't hear, I sometimes can't speak, and I sometimes can't see. Okay, in 1984, everything in my life changed. I was in a motor vehicle accident. There's so many, making connections count. There's so many different considerations: sight, touch, sound, smell, taste, and so much more. We bring to the table many different things when we have a disability, and these are indicias that represent different disabilities. 1 in 4 people have some kind of disability, but people with disabilities are represented less than 3% of the time in popular media. There's equality, which is you may not be able to reach the board. There's an image of a man trying to write on the blackboard, trying to reach high. There's a woman in the center who can reach it very well. And then there's a man to the side that's sitting in a walker and can't reach it at all. Accommodation can be a variety of different tools where you have a riser to make you taller. You still have equity in the center, and to the left is a ramp that looks pretty difficult to use. It looks more like a ski jump. Equality is having an option. So 1 in 4 people have some kind of disability. Oops, I think it just went the opposite way. Sorry, swiping the wrong way. Accommodation is not the same as accessibility. Accessibility brings a more level playing field to everyone. Accommodations are for individuals and they are reactive. Accessibility is for populations and is proactive. Accessibility should make content or any service available to all in equally effective ways at the same time, not later, not that you watch the presentation after it's been recorded, you stay up all night and watch it and then you can participate the next day. It should be in real time at the same time. Accessibility for populations is proactive. Accommodations for individuals are reactive. I think it's going the wrong way. Okay, so this is the 3 images of different interpretations of access. Accessibility is the goal, accommodations are the tools to reach it. So disability means in JEDI, or excuse me, accessibility, justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion. Exploring a developmental path starts with curiosity, which in turn creates a more active interest. Typically, this is followed by, I have to keep moving the captioning around. Typically, this is followed by a recognition of a desired end result, leading to actions whereby one can reach that result. Now it's not advancing. Okay. Making connections count. There's perception, physical access, personal space, respect, culture, inclusion, meaning, power, purpose, permission, fear, history, belief, imagination, triggers, resources. I'm needing to hide the captions. So if someone asks me a question, I'll have to turn that back on. How much time do we have? So the 4 principles of accessibility is it must be perceivable, it must be operable, it must be understandable, and it must be robust. Perceivable is the information in the user interface components must be presentable to users in ways they can perceive. This means that users must be able to perceive the information being presented. It can't be invisible to all of their senses. There are many times where people do not understand what a service dog does, what a service dog is, and what constitutes control. It must be operable. The user interface components and the navigation must be operable. This means that users must be able to operate the interface. The interface cannot require an interaction that a user cannot perform. So if they don't know the law, they're not going to follow it. It needs to be understandable. The information and the operation of the interface must be understandable. This means that users must be able to understand the information as well as the operation of the user interface. So the content or operation cannot be beyond their understanding. It needs to be robust. The content must be robust enough that it can be interpreted reliably by a wide variety of user agents, including assistive technologies. This means users must be able to access the content as technologies advance. As both users and assistive technology evolve, that content should remain accessible. So again, the concepts are perceivable, operable, understandable, and robust. And it is a social justice issue. And this is just a video. You can watch it some other time, and I can give these links later. But what's disability got to do with it? Everything. There comes a point, this is a quote from Desmond Tutu, there comes a point where we need to stop just pulling people out of the river. We need to go upstream and find out why they're falling in. So service animals, the Americans with Disabilities Act of 1990, we're at 34 years. And there's still so little understanding of what is a service animal and what is not a service animal, what constitutes utilization in an appropriate manner or not. So my experience in Santa Fe, just in the last several months, I went to the Pantry South Side to have a meeting with a new client. When I say client, I provide direct support services to people and families. I also provide the other half of my time in the public policy. I went to the restaurant to have my very first meeting with a person who's deaf and hard of hearing, to help them with some of the changes that they wanted to make in their life. And I got there early. I had my service dog. I asked for a table with space so that I could seat my dog. And the hostess said, I told you last week you couldn't bring that dirty dog in here. And I said, I haven't been in the restaurant for over a year. And the last time I was here, I was with a very tall gentleman who had a beard and a mustache and wore glasses, and we were fine. She said, I told you before, I remember you. I told you you can't come in here and you can't bring your dirty dog in here. Essentially, the meeting had to be held at a different restaurant because when we're not welcome, what Daniel said to me when I told him about this was, that's profiling. And it was. They saw the person, they saw the dog, and they made an assumption. So when we look at ADA requirements for service animals, this is just the screenshot of the page of the Americans with the Disabilities Act. So another experience I had, which is a large part of why I worked very hard to change the law in the state of New Mexico, was I went into the Smith's grocery store and someone had an animal in the shopping cart. I asked them to please have that person remove the animal from the shopping cart so that they followed the Americans with Disabilities Act law or followed the state law. The store refused to do anything about it. But that's not legal either. Another incident I had recently was at Market Street, where I went into the store and I let them know that there were 2 pets in the store and to please have the pets not in the store. And it turned into a huge brouhaha where they said, oh, I don't want to pet your dog. Why are you being that way? And I wasn't being any way. I was not asking them to pet my dog because if the staff is petting my dog's not working. Another incident I had was at the Roundhouse, where I am every day over and over, long hours during the legislative session, where staff started bringing in pets and stating that they were service dogs. And that, I'm sorry, now my dog is hearing me talk about service dogs a lot coming up to me. But that was a very difficult situation because they were not working dogs, they were pets. And I had been asked to not come back to the Roundhouse because an elected official had an allergy. And an allergy is not a reason to exclude someone, but we do accommodate each other's needs. In Walmart, there's so many things that are happening. And these are just in the last few months in Santa Fe. So one of the things that we did in New Mexico was in 2013, after many years of work, we modified the Assistance Animal Act to the Service Animal Act, and that was in 2013, so that the state law would align with the federal law. And this is just an example of what that looks like. One of the things that New Mexico did that's different from what the ADA has in place is that we put extra teeth in, and there are more than 30 states who have done this as well, where if you try to pass off your pet as a service animal that is not trained, task trained, and is not under control, it can be a fine of up to $1,000 and up to 1 year imprisonment, one or the other, but it is up to the judge of what will be, whether that misdemeanor will be charged or not. But law enforcement in any of these states has yet to write a ticket. So we really don't have a lot of teeth in the law, but this is what a misdemeanor is under Chapter 31, Article 19, Section 31-19-1, sentencing authority for misdemeanors. So just, it's rough. One of the things that happens in trying to get to this kind of enforcement is that stores and places of business and even Title II public buildings, government entities, is when they approach someone and say, is that a service animal? Person might say yes. What task does it perform to mitigate the disability? You don't have to demonstrate it. But when people say, oh, it's a service dog, you can't make me leave, they generally get into conflict. And what I found in training places is that it's not so much that they don't want to enforce the law, it's that if someone's animal's out of control, the business or public setting doesn't know how to enter into conflict resolution because the person is welcome back into the space, but the animal that's not under control is not welcomed back in the space. So I found that more often it's conflict resolution because they're afraid of their own customers getting into conflict. And that endangers not only the animal, it endangers the person, it endangers the other patrons. So there's no certificate or registry for service animals, but the animal must be under control. And what under control is it's demonstrated that it's performing a task. It's not distracted. It's not urinating, defecating, barking. And there's a lot of websites that will sell you certification and papers, but they're meaningless. Service animals must be under control. That includes vocalizing beyond a signal bark. That's not within control. So one of the things that happened at Market Street was there were two pets. One became loose, another was being petted by the staff, and then the staff were saying, well, we don't want to pet your dog. It's like, no, I don't want you to pet my dog. But at that moment in time, all I could use was sign language or use my phone for captioning to communicate with the staff. And when someone came up from the staff and was aggressively saying, you know, you can go home, you should just leave here. What's wrong with you? I don't want to pet your dog. It's like, I didn't ask you to pet my dog. You're working and you can't pet a dog and then go back to your work with food service. My dog gave one bark and the staff said, that ain't no freaking service dog. It's barking, barking, barking. The reason my dog gave one signal bark was that my dog was trying to alert me that the staff were becoming agitated. And my dog wanted to let me know, you're not paying attention to what I need you to pay attention to. And that's one signal bark. But uncontrollable barking is not within control. So for food service establishments, something that occurred in 2011, prior to the Service Animal Act being passed in 2013, was that Senator Peter Wirth passed a law in 2011, Senate Bill 11, which was to allow pet dogs in designated outdoor dining areas of food service establishments. This was a good thing, but it's rarely followed because people begin to take the permission of bringing their animal into the restaurant means in the restaurant. They're only allowed on the patio if the party patron can enter the patio without going through the restaurant, because the restaurant is a food service establishment. The New Mexico Environment Department, or NMED, they have oversight for food service establishments. This is just a screenshot of their website. And the New Mexico Restaurant Association follows guidance under that's not going back. The Restaurant Association follows the Environment Department, and they put together this flyer to be posted at restaurants to let people know what's the difference between a service animal an emotional support animal or a therapy animal. And one way to look at service animals is it's one dog, one person. A therapy animal is one dog, many people. And it could also be under an exception under the ADA, a miniature horse. So this is the flyer that the Restaurant Association has put together, which follows the guidance of the Environment Department. Grocery stores are typically a permitted food service establishment under the New Mexico Food, I can't see it, but the Retail and Manufactured Food Field Guide. So grocery store that has food, that's like deli food, that's open food. So they need to be permitted as a food service establishment. And dogs or miniature horses are not to be in the same place as the food unless it's serving, the person is like collecting at a salad bar to serve themselves, but pets are not. So animals are not allowed in shopping carts because that's a violation of the health code. And under this very long document, if you're a permitted food establishment, you do not have an animal in a shopping cart because that's also where food goes. And I know some people will bring up the argument of, well, what about a baby that's in the little child seat part that has defecated in their diaper and then that's leaking onto the shopping cart? I can see that Daniel's smiling. That's another matter. We're not talking about that. We're talking about service animals, but they're not allowed in shopping carts. Even if you put a little blanket down, not allowed in a shopping cart. The place the animal should be is not in a shopping cart, not being fed from the table at a restaurant, not being placed on the seat of a restaurant, because if the animal needs to be by the person's body, it can be in a carrier on their body and be sensing, say, a diabetes alert dog or a seizure alert dog. They're not required to have animals in places where they violate the health code. So when people are not involved in the creation of a policy, the policy may have good intentions to resolve an issue, but the policies are often created about the community, not actually for the community. When we work on these kinds of things, we try not to use acronym soup because it's not a tasty snack. Remember to be inclusive to your peers, to other public officials, and others who may soon become one of your peers. People often move into a space when I'm asking them to comply with policy of fight. They're doing the typical conflict, fight, flight. They try and leave the situation. Freeze, they just stop dead in their tracks. Fawning is when you try to make favor to bring about agreement, and that's not very effective either. Get involved in public policy. This is a legislative meeting online. If you don't like a policy, and you all by serving on this council are part of creating policy, but if the law is not working, amend the law. If the law, there needs to be a new law, make a new law. Go to meetings, be at the Roundhouse. You can participate in captioning, but it can sometimes feel like you're not welcome. Like this grid of 4 images is a 4-way split screen. But if I'd never been there, I would think that's a picture of the room. We can help people understand what's in the setting and how that setting works. This is just some pictures, me presenting with an interpreter, me presenting on Eye on New Mexico on television, meeting with the mayor of Albuquerque, presenting to the Regional Health Equity Council. This is the dog preceding my current dog. And this is my contact information. I think what we can do is make it a better space by educating others as to what it is that the law states, what the intent of the law is, and why we can make it a better situation. Because if someone is saying, I don't want your dirty dog in here, are they just looking at the dog and the profile? Are they telling me I'm not welcome? Or are they looking at something they don't understand, or they don't know what their rights are? to exclude me if I'm not behaving appropriately, if the animal's not behaving appropriately. And the only way we're going to reach enforcement, sometimes that's unfortunate, by punitive means. But I think education is a better way to collaborate to solutions than to use punitive measures. I didn't change the law to make it punitive. I changed the law to try to improve my day-to-day living experience as a person with multiple disabilities who utilizes a service dog. It's not easier to bring my dog everywhere. It's harder. It costs more. But the trade-off is worth it to me because my quality of life improves as a result. Thank you. Questions? I'm not moderating the questions. Someone else will need to make that
Yes.
call.
So I see Gina Maria had her hand up first and then Pam.
Yes, will this be included as part of the agenda? The presentation was absolutely out of this world. Thank you.
Thank you. This is Nat. I'm not sure how they place a PowerPoint into the minutes, but I believe my verbiage will be in the transcript.
And this is being recorded also.
Okay. I did grab your phone number and I will contact you also.
Thank you, Gina Maria. Pam?
My question has to do with what do you think is the scenario that allowed a medium-sized dog with no service tag or vest to be admitted to a theater at the Violet Crown and watch a movie with its owners? What did they just walk the dog through? Are all service dogs tagged? What do you do if somebody with a pretty big dog sits down next to you and it's not comfortable for you? What's this scene about?
There's a lot of questions. If the animal is under control and the animal is clean and the animal is a service dog, it can be allowed in the space. If the party, let's say someone comes in and they sit next to you and you have a fear of dogs, you can ask to be seated in another seat. You can also, it's often better to ask the management, could the other party be seated elsewhere? But exclusion cannot occur. If the animal is not vocalizing, it's not acting out, it should be able, I often call my dogs, people say, oh, how can your dog possibly fit in that little tiny space? And I go, I call them an origami dog. So if I can fit myself, my dog, and in an airplane restroom and still do my business in that restroom, they fold up pretty small. If the animal is too big to be able to go under their legs or under the seat, they may need to purchase another seat, or they may need to request in advance for the accessible seating space, say the space that a wheelchair would be in, if the dog needs that accommodation. I often call in advance. Also, as a service animal handler, when I enter a room and I'm about to sit somewhere, I often say, I have my service dog. Are you comfortable with me sitting here, or would you like me to move elsewhere? I think I tried to answer all those questions.
I have one more, and that has to do with, are all service dogs marked in some way with a tag or a vest? Because this dog had nothing to identify it as a service dog.
A vest or a badge or a special collar are not required to identify the animal as a service animal. the business or entity can ask 2 questions. Is that a service animal, yes or no? And what task does it perform what task does it perform to assist you with a disability? You don't have to demonstrate it. You don't have to state your diagnosis, but you do have to name at least one task. The business can ask, but you can't ask that question. But if it does make you uncomfortable, it could be that you're then requesting an accommodation for your need.
Thank you.
I always try to have my animal wear an identifying feature. Are there any other questions?
The only thing, let me do my video again. Sorry, my screen was freezing. The only thing that I have seen, and I don't have any opinion either way, but I have seen people who are stating that they have service dogs where their dogs are not on a leash or in any way, you know, under their control, like being restrained in some way. And a lot of times you can, not necessarily with service dogs, because a lot of times service dogs are very trained and they will stay close to the person. But people claiming that they are service dogs, the dog will of course run off. And that to me is an indicator that it's not necessarily a service dog. And so I don't know if you want to address that. You know, for me, most of the people that I have seen with service dogs, not everyone, but most of the people, they are on some kind of a leash or under control. I know sometimes that's not physically feasible for everyone, so I'm not going to say that that's the general rule. But they usually do stay close to their person when they are trained, is in my observation. So if you want to address that and add anything to that, I would really appreciate that.
The service animal must be tethered, which means on a leash, or must be under voice control if tethering is not possible. Say the person has paralysis and the dog is always next to them, that would be under voice control. If it's not under voice control, it might be under, hello, yes, you're a good boy. So my dog prays every night for opposable thumbs and wakes up and never has them. He understands sign language, so I don't have to give verbal commands. I can use sign commands, or I can use voice commands, or one can gesture. If the dog cannot be tethered, say there could be a clip that clips it to the wheelchair, but it must be under voice command or signal command or tethered. For these long flex leashes, under the new 2020 guidelines of the Americans with Disabilities Act, you can use a long flexi leash to have the dog or miniature horse retrieve an item that's very far away, but then it must come back to the person and then be within, they try to say like 2 to 3 feet of the individual. But the flexi leash all over the place, that is not under control. And it's very difficult I found in New Mexico that people do not tend to observe the leash law, even on hikes, and that is a law, unless it's an off-leash park. And you can have that signage that says off-leash is okay. But the other piece of part of this law is restitution can be also part of the issue. If someone's a human or another animal harms your service animal, restitution needs to be paid. And it's like $50,000-$60,000 to create one of these dogs. That's not necessarily what the person pays, but a lot of people are taking liberties that just are not, it's not ethical, it's also not respectful, and it presents a whole set of barriers. Thank you. I'm honored to have been able to be a guest. I've brought up a lot of issues, and I think someone.
There's two more questions, and then after this, we do need to go to the next presentation. So Gina Maria.
Real quickly, have you found other states that are better suited for this? That are more compliant and open?
I can honestly say my experience in New Mexico has been the lowest. If the low score is not good and the higher score is great, New Mexico scores very, very low on enforcing the rights of a service animal handler. Other two states I've found are very good about observing has been Illinois, Chicago in particular, and Washington, D.C. has been great. But it's not just Washington, D.C. because it's the capital. It's the experience I've had in the city as well as on Capitol grounds. When Homeland Security animals barking and the officer crosses the street or handler crosses the street and says, "Oh, sorry, my dog's really being a jerk right now." Sorry about that. I say, well, you know, part of it's doing its job, which is it alerts to things it might think are concerning until it observes that was no longer concern, and then the handler corrected the action. So it's not always easy, but I think it's worth it. There was one other question.
Yes, my question has to do with service dogs in training that live with families. They're housed in private homes. What are the rights of, say, a private HOA club building that has a no dogs policy, and someone's trying to have a party in that space, and a family says, we have to be able to bring this service dog in training into your party? What is, that was a very big standoff, and I want to know whose rights are prevailing here.
Service animals in training are allowed in public spaces under the New Mexico law, but under the Americans with Disabilities Act, service animals in training do not have to be admitted. Because it's a homeowners association, some of it may fall under the Fair Housing Act, but if the animal is in training and cannot function well within the stimuli of the party, it needs to have gradual exposure to the experience until well trained enough to be safe in the public setting of the party. So you have two areas there, and I can address that outside of this meeting in interest of the time of your agenda. My contact information is in the chat.
Daniel?
Yes, she's correct about the Fair Housing Act. And that's part of education. I mean, if you're going to live or have members of your family come that have the need for a service, upon you to go to management or to your meeting and say, let me educate you on service animals and the limitations and the pluses of that, so that people aren't responding or reacting to the situation out of fear, because usually those reactions are fear-based. And so you want where you live, your community, to know that they have rights and you have rights. And so sometimes just talking to each other helps.
And this is Nat again. Typically, if an animal is acting out, it's acting out because it's afraid. It's not developed the skill set yet. So I often say, if I'm by the gurney as opposed to on the gurney, if I'm on the gurney and I'm screaming in pain, my service dog is going to try to alert someone. But when I'm by the gurney with a client and they're screaming in absolute pain, my dog is not reacting at all to that. So part of his skill set is knowing the difference between my pain and someone else's pain. And that's two very different scenarios. It's almost like the dog being able to tell the difference of a bomb blast in a film or a movie, a video, versus a real bomb blast. How do they tell the difference? I don't always know that, but it's the learning curve and the practice that helps them to be able to do their work. Thank you so much for the opportunity to present today and for the extra amount of time that you gave me today. Thank you so much.
Thank you. That was very informative, and I really appreciate the time that you have given us today and the presentation and information. Thank you so much. So next we have action items. Councilor Garcia is here with us. We have the BPAC resolution, discussion and recommendations of amendments and vote to support moving BPAC resolution forward to the governing body as amended. And one thing that I need to do is screen share. There were amendments that Eli had suggested that are in the packet. I have also been working on more specific amendments that we had been discussing in relation to Title II, and including Title II in the resolution, as well as specific wheelchair user language. It's a lot of assistive devices, not just wheelchairs, but the term of rolling, which I consulted with Gina Maria on to confirm that term is preferred. So let me screen share, and then everyone can read through what I wrote. It's pretty quickly. It's just a pretty quick read. I will also read it after, but I'm gonna give everyone a minute. So hold on one second. Let me see if I can make this work. Can everyone see my shared screen?
Yes.
And is it too big? Is it too small? Is it okay?
It's fine for me.
Okay.
Good.
And so to give clarification on this, to amend the resolution to, instead of saying bicycling and walking, to say bicycling, rolling and walking, to amend page 3, line 7 to say, where it says driving, bicycling and walking behavior, to say driving, bicycling, rolling and walking behavior, to be more inclusive. On page 3 and 4, lines 25 through 1, whereas on December 6, 2023, the Mayor's Committee on Disability voted in support of this resolution, stating in part that the Americans with Disabilities Act compliance is an obligation of the City of Santa Fe, and this resolution and funding will integrate several major aspects of ADA compliance into the city infrastructure. And then to add a whereas section, whereas the Americans with Disabilities Act Title II compliance requires that people with disabilities be given an equal opportunity to benefit from all city programs, services, and activities, including that pedestrian pathways, sidewalks, and other public rights of way be updated, modified, and maintained, safe to access, clearly marked and identified, and cleared of any obstructions such as ice, snow, and weeds, to assure that city infrastructure is accessible and usable to all citizens, tourists, and guests with disabilities in the city of Santa Fe. And I just want to share, I can scroll down some of the research that was done. This is not all of it by any means, but I included from Portland, Oregon, where they use the term rolling, and it says, we use the term walking and rolling to try to encompass all possible modes. Sometimes using a mobility device or wheelchair is included in the term walking. Sometimes it's included rolling. The terms can be a preference by a person or designated by an organization or group. Rolling includes human-powered things on wheels, such as bikes, scooters, skateboards, pedicabs, e-bikes, e-scooters, can all be rolling. Here where in the Department of Transportation, where it talks about pedestrian bicycle safety, it includes walking, biking, and rolling, and that includes wheelchair use, scooters, adaptive
Mhm.
sports equipment, all kinds of things. And both of these actually, reference that, like it's all inclusive of anything that has wheels. And so, I'm going to stop share now so that I can see everyone. Um, and so I wanted to know first off what you think of that language. If it was written in a way to identify how it relates to this resolution, and to support the wording of this resolution and what this resolution does specifically. And within Title II, because Title II does a lot. It's, it's not just public rights of way, but that's part of it. And then I'm wanting to know, I guess, your thoughts on the resolution. We have already discussed this a lot, so I think that, as far as holding a vote, I think we all know where we stand on this right now. And so, Pam, go ahead.
I had a little trouble reading it and reading the captions and following it. I may have
Yes.
missed this, but when there's some wording in there about public right of way, is that the bike lanes on the streets, that they be maintained as well as paths and sidewalks?
Councilor Garcia, could you or Daniel, can you answer that? I don't.
Sure, yes, you're correct, Pat. That is city-owned bike paths and sidewalks.
My question has to do with the bike symbols that are painted on roads. They're city, they're state, they're all kinds of things, even within this city. Who maintains, say, State Road, something that heads to the ski basin? Who's responsible? Who's responsible for the bike lanes on Cereus Road or St. Francis? Who keeps them painted and stamped with the symbol of a bicycle when there's a bicycle sign that says bike may take the full lane because it's too narrow? Is that covered clearly and I just missed it?
Sure, great question, Pam. So in regards to who maintains the road, it all comes down to ownership. The majority of the roads in the city are owned by the city of Santa Fe. There are a few that are owned by the state of New Mexico, such as St. Francis. There's a portion of Cerrillos Road that is owned by the state. It will be soon dedicated to the city of Santa Fe after it gets rehabilitated in the next couple of years. You had mentioned the state road going up to Hyde Park. That is state road. In regards to maintenance, it is state maintained. In regards to safety maintenance, for example, if there was an injury on that road, the city of Santa Fe, we have a cooperative partnership for police and emergency services on that road and all the way up to the ski basin. But I think the answer to your question, Pam, is it all determines who is the owner of the road and they're responsible for maintenance of the road. And as I mentioned, majority of the roads in the city of Santa Fe are owned by the city of Santa Fe, except for those main thoroughfares that I mentioned. There are some private roads and neighborhoods that might seem public, and that is up to that neighborhood to maintain those roads. There's been instances where those roads, the residents have kind of collaborated together and dedicated that road to the city for maintenance purposes, because the city will only maintain city-owned streets and bike pathways and sidewalks.
Okay, because I couldn't read both at the same time and hear everything, just let me know, is my question and concern covered adequately in this statement?
I believe so. So this resolution calls for maintenance of city-owned bike pathways, whether it's through a bike trail or bike lanes. as
on
well as
city
as well
streets.
as yes, as well as city sidewalks. So it gets tricky when it becomes private, whether it's private bike paths or private sidewalks. When we talk about sidewalks in neighborhoods, those are private sidewalks, because the way the law works is that if a sidewalk is adjacent to a residence, the residence owner is responsible for maintenance of that sidewalk. And so that's where there is sometimes some confusion in regards to who is responsible for maintaining the sidewalk. And it just all comes down to the location. And once we can identify a location, we can get a clear-cut answer on who's responsible for maintaining that bike path or sidewalk.
Okay, and you're saying that it's adequately covered in the wording that we're presenting, Kathleen? Do you
Yes.
understand? Because bikes never go on sidewalks unless they're like tricycles, children, or it's illegal. So we have to ride on the road, and sometimes the paint has worn off and there's no clear lane or marking to designate that the bicyclist can take the whole lane because it's too narrow. And I just want to make sure that it's not just bike paths, it's the streets.
It covers biking infrastructure. So whether it is bike lanes on the streets or bike paths such as Arroyo Chamizo Trail, it is the biking infrastructure and pedestrian infrastructure that the city of Santa Fe owns.
Thank you.
Sure, absolutely happy to answer the question.
Next is Aurora.
Maybe this has already been fixed, but on page 5 of the resolution, the last paragraph, line 11, it says, be it further resolved that there's no "the" there, that the somebody directs the city manager to implement the recommendations. So who's the designee?
Chair Gish, I could respond to that.
Yes, please.
Good eye, Anya. So we've got an amendment, and that is the city attorney's office inadvertently, accidentally didn't put in. It's supposed to read the governing body directs the city manager. So there will be an amendment introduced on that to ensure that there is as you noted, who is directing the city manager, and it will be the governing body.
Thank you.
Yes.
That was probably in one of my long lists that I'm just like getting lost in. So thank you for that, Aurora. I do remember reading that and wondering the same. Daniel, you had something to say. I don't know if what you said was already covered.
No, I think Councilmember Garcia did cover the ownership issue. But also, we have multiple markings for bike lanes on the street, signage is there, along with the painting. Things do wear out, and the city does have to make plans to make those corrections. And although it seems like it takes forever, they do get done. So government's always working.
And one question that I did have that I was thinking of, because we've been driving lately and I see that a lot of the bike lanes are covered in the snow removal, gravel or whatever. Is that street cleaning part of this as well? Would that be part of maintaining that bike path to make sure that it's cleared?
Absolutely. And that is should be ongoing maintenance that should be done. I think dependent on the year, time of year, there might be more of that kind of rock mixture on the roads. But I think that, yes, absolutely, that is covered in here, and that is we've had many discussions on this and how we can ensure that those roads are cleaned up as quick as possible. Definitely understand the need for those materials, but we also understand, or I clearly understand, that is also problematic for cyclists riding on the road, and it can really be cause an accident to happen. And we want to make sure that we're providing the appropriate resources to maintain that infrastructure.
Thank you, Councilor Garcia. Pam?
Oh, yes. Thank you for mentioning that gravel. That's a very big hazard. But also, what are the plans for the summer rains that wash dirt and rocks and debris onto the paths or the bike lanes on the streets?
So the plan is, I mean, so we as a city, sorry, Pam, didn't mean to cut you off. I didn't know if.
Oh, it's just the ongoing maintenance. It's summer, winters, fall, spring. It's all inclusive. So after a big rain, there's somebody who's going to be looking for which lanes were washed out.
Well, and I think that's where it'll be, we'll also rely on the expertise and help of the public when there are hazards, and whether it's on the streets or on bike paths, to ensure that the city is responding in an expedient manner. Because we unfortunately don't have the capacity to have teams out deployed at every single stretch of roadway. I will make it a priority that when a report comes in regards to obstruction, such as you mentioned, whether it was due to the snow materials or on bike paths, that we clean it up in an expedient manner. And I think that's just where the GIS mapping system that's proposed through this resolution as well will be very helpful, because it will help to identify those problematic areas.
And Daniel, correct me if I'm wrong, but the ADA is it 48 hours that it needs to be cleared? If there's an obstruction?
There is no specific time, but it is required to be maintained. So there's not going to be like in 48 hours we have to be out there cleaning every street. It's just not going to be. It's usually complaint driven. Public Works really relies on the public informing them of an obstruction, especially one that is hazardous. If you see it, say so. If you see something, say something. I mean, and then we'll give it our attention, and they will prioritize things as well, because resources are significantly limited in every city. And so that's where the city government will go and remove those obstructions as required. And also it helps for public to give their input, so that if we need to go before our governing body to inform them of an increased concern, then they can address it accordingly.
Thank you, Pam. Go ahead.
My further question is, for the public to give input, I personally know Regina Wheeler's email.
Yeah.
But what provision is there for letting the public know when there's an obstruction and an easy access to getting in? Is there a hotline? What's going to be done so people don't
Constituent
just wait for
Services
months?
receives a lot of complaints or receives a lot of requests for that kind of stuff. Constituent Services will filter those various concerns of all departments to the various departments. So if it's a public right-of-way issue, if it's a building issue, if it's another issue, they'll filter it to the department responsible for that part of the government. And so Constituent Services is the way to go. And that's usually how it comes to everybody in throughout the city.
It's becoming inaudible for me. I'm a little behind. If I go on the website, there's going to be a telephone number. So my bike club asks, how do we get this fixed? And I say, email Constituent Services. That's the answer.
Yes, and also if you call and you ask the operator, they'll forward you to the right department. So we have a simple number that you contact the city on, and they'll forward you to the various departments that you need to be in contact with. So it's not a difficult maze. If you want to inform the city, you can call the number and they'll send you to the right place.
And then Daniel, I have a follow-up question to that, because I know we have mentioned it in previous meetings about updating the Constituent Services form that's on the website so that it includes disability related access issues or needs or anything like that. has that been being worked on at all, or do we still need to work on that?
We're working on some changes there. I mean, I looked at the constituent services list. It's extensive. I mean, so if there is a issue of accessibility, just going through that list and putting it on any one of those things, it's eventually going to find its way to us. But to add more to it might just be counterproductive. It might not be good. Making it less confusing is probably something we got to look at, because there is a ton of sections you can go into, and just adding more to it is just going to, it may not be a good idea. I mean, but that's what I'm thinking.
And
Is
the
there
forms-
something
the
you could
forms
just
need-
review the certain categories that might be accessibility issues, just to make sure there wasn't a problem?
And accessibility issues can address every single department and every component. So if it's an accessibility issue, it behooves the individual with a disability to state that this is an accessibility issue related to the specific department and whatever function that's deficient. So you want to say, A, it involves this department, B, this is the accessibility issue of this department. To add a separate accessibility issue might make it difficult for it to be filtered to the right department, because maybe the person doesn't mention the department. And that's what we need, for it to be integrated throughout, not just separated or pulled away from the city government's functions. It's included in all functions. And so I think education of people with disabilities on how to state their concerns of a particular department might be something we want to think about. How we
Is
want
there a
educate.
way, is there a way to make a checkbox where they can just check the box and say this is an accessibility or disability related need? And then make it like super simple for everyone, and it would be on everything?
I'll have to look at that. But what I'm trying to get at is that in every department, there could be an accessibility issue.
Right.
So if it
That's
is
what
an
I'm thinking, just to
accessibility,
make it a checkbox, because then it would be on every form. And
Mhm.
then it would make someone be able to actually state like, yes, this is, because someone, like, a lot of times when I've filed things, it's been a disability related issue, but I'm like, that's the last thing on my mind. I just need the obstruction cleared, you know?
okay. So
So,
let's look at that. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Chair Gish, if I may, we are getting ready to kind of update the constituent services form that's currently online. And so what I will do is I will connect with the appropriate city staff to plant that seed with them as they begin to redevelop. And as you said, it shouldn't be that hard to incorporate a checkbox. And so I'll definitely pass that information along for you, and
Thank you.
make sure that we incorporate that into the future constituent service upgrades.
awesome. Thank you so much.
Sure, absolutely.
And then Pam?
This is a technical issue. Daniel, your audio has fallen so low. I have to turn my volume way up. And then if Chair Gish has a comment, she blasts me out. I don't know if you have any way of setting your volume so that I can hear you.
Daniel, you used to have a headset. I know that's in the office. I don't know if you have that with you. You're on mute. Daniel, you're on mute.
Okay. I bought what do you mean, a headset? I bought my own headset for my
Yeah.
office.
Yeah.
Can you all hear him?
Can you hear me?
It's low. I agree that it's low. Yeah.
Okay.
And your mouth falls below the screen a lot of the time for me. So
How's that?
I can't understand what you're saying. And then I ask questions that are already covered.
How is that? Can you hear me now?
I still have
Can
to
hear you.
turn you up.
Tip your screen a little bit so you can see more of your face and less of the ceiling.
Okay. How about there?
Oh, good.
That looks good.
All right.
Technology.
I bet you guys regret the day you let a hard of hearing person on this committee. So much of it is about my access.
So I'm trying to think, should I screen share again so that you can see what I stated, Pam, to add? Because that's what we are going to be potentially voting on to move forward. And you didn't get a chance to read it, you said because of the captions.
I would appreciate it if you did that, please.
Okay, okay, absolutely.
Maybe if you pop the screen out, she could see it better.
So let me know if there's any issues viewing what I have written. And I will stay silent so that there's no captions. Let me know when you're done. I was going to type something in chat, but I lost chat with the screen share. So I guess raise your hand when you're done, and then I can see that everyone has read it.
Turkish.
Yes.
Pam wrote something in the chat and she said, I missed something. What is happening?
See, I can't see the chat at all.
When-
Oh, hold on. There it goes. I had to pop it out.
It's okay. Everyone's raising their hand with the button. So I didn't know I waved, but now I see we all need to put that raised hand up.
Yeah. And then the only other member is Aurora. But giving you time if you need to read it.
I've read it.
Okay. All right, so we have all 5 mayor's committee members who have read what is being proposed to amend the BPAC resolution to include disability inclusive terms, language, and also a statement as to why the mayor's committee supports this resolution. In part, it's not in full. There are so many things. We would have a whole resolution of our own, a whole whereas page of our own. So I need to stop screen sharing because I can't see everyone. Hold on. Okay. Kendra, do you have something to say, or you still have your hand raised? Okay. So, Angelique, go ahead.
I actually appreciate the amendment, the way that it is changed to be inclusive. Oftentimes you do see people with motorized wheelchairs going down the side of the road. Parents with children with disabilities being pulled behind their back, you know, on their bicycles and stuff like that. So I really appreciate the way you guys modified it and made it inclusive for everyone.
That's why we're here.
Yeah, it is why we're here. So I think that one thing that I do want to add that I was thinking of is another reason why I personally support this resolution is that especially in the last 5 years, me and my mom have had increasingly less access to the city because of the overgrowth of weeds, the lack of maintenance around the city, along with the lack of bus access because we are dependent upon public transportation a lot of the time. And all of those 2 things combined makes us shop a lot less locally. We are more and more dependent upon shopping online, and we want to shop locally. We want to enjoy the community. We want to go places and walk and do things. And with the obstructions and the literal dangers to us for our disabilities, we have not been doing that as much as we want, or at all. My mom has like pretty much stopped because she is scared of falling. And so this resolution would make it safe and safer for people with disabilities to actually navigate around the city and actually be able to participate in local shopping, local events, you know, and really be a part of the community. And so I just wanted to add that because I didn't say that before, that is something that has changed in our behavior. We always did everything locally. But with the lack of maintenance that's been happening, that has lessened more and more over the years. Angelique, go ahead.
And it can be really difficult when you're trying to push your child in a modified wheelchair stroller. That can be difficult if there's obstacles in the way as well, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Angelique. So I think that if no one else has anything to add, Gina Marie, you have your hand.
Yeah, the other thing that occurs to me, and I don't know that this is ever going to change, but there are so many sidewalks that are so narrow. And I think sometimes, like, as a safety issue, because it's really hard for me to like turn around and look behind me. And I can't turn in the middle of a sidewalk where that only allows the rotation at the beginning and end of a certain section of the sidewalk. You just have to keep going and hopefully get away from the danger or whatever. I mean, I'm just a thought.
Yeah. No, the new laws, Daniel, what's the width that the ADA now requires for new sidewalks? It's really wide.
Well, okay, well, the minimum requirement is 3 foot, but at every 200 feet, you need a change of direction that is 5 foot by 5 foot. So with that logic, you want to build sidewalks that are 5 foot wide. Now, in the situation that we have here in Santa Fe, we have older streets, and on both sides, there's streets there are sidewalks that are 3 feet or less than 3 feet on both sides. So in those settings, I always recommend that if we're gonna modify the street or improve the street, that we pick one side and make it a 5 foot wide sidewalk and remove as many barriers as we can, from traffic signs to fire hydrants to telephone poles. And part of this infrastructure is going to help in doing that when we identify a very serious hazard. Of course, this is an ongoing issue. I mean, this is forever. I mean, we're going to be fixing our sidewalks in all neighborhoods. And it's also, as we do development, if we build new homes and new housing and facilities out there and businesses, that we incorporate those designs to be in compliance with ADA. And for the most part, building code has caught up to that. So what's happened in most of the situations is that it is an older setting. Again, if there is no existing sidewalk and we go and replace and repair the street, under ADA, you're not required to install sidewalks. You're only required to put it back the way it was brand new. But if you do put in sidewalks, you're required to comply with the requirements. So like in Henry Lynch Road, they just recently repaved that road. There were no sidewalks, so no sidewalks were added. But good news, down the road, there is a project to install sidewalks. I can't wait to see the drawings on those so that I can ensure that they meet the requirement, because there is a little piece of sidewalk there, but it doesn't comply. And so down the road, that will get fixed. So it's just an ongoing effort.
And that's a really key area because if there's a senior building right there where a lot of seniors are needing that that sidewalk safety access. Angelique, go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
Kind of speaking about what Daniel just touched on, I live between the Agua Fria village and the county, but where I live is city. And so it goes back to those historical areas, you know, and so anyone with a disability on this side of town, it gets really difficult. And we're caught between all of it. So yeah, I'm sure.
So are there any more comments or questions? Daniel, go ahead.
Yeah, and so in the past, there was lack of I don't know how to say without being, I mean, there wasn't someone who wanted to take the lead on making a decision on policy. And I'm comfortable doing that when it comes to public right-of-ways, infrastructure, when it comes to how we conduct ourselves as a city. And the role of ADA coordinator and in the past had its limits. And in my experience, I've always felt that it was the responsibility of the coordinator to help each department raise themselves to higher level of service and higher level of quality when it comes to delivering what they're supposed to be delivering, whether it be building a building or providing service. And so I'm happy to be here to help give some guidance, but I'm not the one that's going to do it alone. I have to educate each department head and its staff to embrace the idea that everything they do affects everyone, and not just people without disabilities, but people with disabilities. So when we start planning to build a new park or rehabilitate a park, we include accessibility at the beginning. And that's what's happening now.
Thank you, Daniel. I feel comfortable moving forward with a vote if there's no further questions or comments. Did everyone get a chance to read what I am proposing to change and then feel comfortable with that being voted on? as is, or if there's any changes proposed to what was written or anything, please speak. Any amendments at all? Okay, if there
Move
are no,
to-
go ahead, Aurora.
I was gonna say move to approve the recommendations.
Okay, so I'm gonna see if I can word this right. I wrote it down, I have it in my notes. So move to recommend this move forward to the governing body as amended. I think that that's right.
I second.
May we have roll call vote, please?
Chair Gish,
Yes.
Aurora Black,
Yes.
Pam Parfit,
Yes.
Angelique Chavez,
Yes.
Gina Maria Alpalescent,
Yes.
Kendra Garcia.
Yes.
Thank you so much, everyone. Councilor Garcia, Jen Weber, thank you so much for being here too. I really have appreciated being part of this process, and with everything that I've learned, I'm sure I'm still learning and look forward to learning more. But I really appreciate the level of respect that I've received throughout this whole process and being heard, having our committee being heard. And it has been wonderful. So really, thank you so much.
My pleasure. And I'm excited to have the opportunity to work alongside y'all. I've got to run to a quality of life committee meeting now, but I will enter in the request for these amendments tonight. That way they will be considered by the governing body for adoption. So thank you all for really taking the time to review this resolution, and not only review it, but strengthen it. So thank you so much. I really appreciate all the time, energy, and effort that you helped to put into this legislation.
Thank you.
And just one plug. This will be heard next Wednesday at the governing body meeting. I would encourage folks, if you're in support of this, please feel free to show up and voice your support for this resolution. Unfortunately, there are some councilors that are having some concerns around this legislation. And so we need all the support we can get to show the governing body that this is something that our community supports, and that it is ultimately legislation that should be adopted by the governing body. And so what I'll do is I'll share the links to the next week's meeting. That way you can either show up in person at City Hall and voice your support at 7 p.m. or you can show up via Zoom and watch the meeting from the comfort of your couch and provide your comments in a remote manner as well. So again, thank you all, everybody. Really appreciate everything that you do to move our city forward, and wish you all the best with the rest of your meeting.
Thank you. Pam has a question. I don't know if
Yeah.
it,
A question about the hearing loop in that chamber. It's new. And the city always has, if you require accommodation, you have to call a week ahead. Is this loop just going to make it accessible? It's going to be on for, well, where there's any city business being conducted in the city council chambers?
That
My
is my
understanding-
understanding. Yes,
works.
and Daniel,
It works.
go.
It works?
Yeah, it works. So I'll go ahead and make sure city clerk is aware that it needs to be available at all times.
thank you so much, Councilor Garcia and Jen Weber. I appreciate both of you.
Bye-bye, y'all.
And Gene Weber, I encourage you to bring people.
Yeah, I'll be traveling, but we will have people there.
Send people, and I encourage people with disabilities, try not to show up on Zoom, try to show up and interact with government in person, because
Yeah.
that has greater impact. You know,
Yeah.
like they say, we got to show up.
Thank you all. Have a good evening.
Thank you too.
Bye.
Bye. So next is let's see, 7B, updates on the transition plan and ADA compliance plans for 2024. Daniel, that's you.
Okay.
what have you been doing? People have been asking me. What have you up to?
Definitely working hard to get council a little more accessible to you guys, to everybody. And then finding out we're going to change it anyway. In addition, I've been reviewing, we're going through a lot of projects that are now getting funded. I'm reviewing a lot of documents for their compliance, giving my feedback on the design, and also stressing in each project team my involvement and what is required. I think they've are getting used to the idea that there's someone who actually can review a set of blueprints and articulate what's required. As an architects are very exact about their designs. And so I'm exact about my comments when I say what section of the requirements they need to meet. So being that my background, I've reviewed thousands of projects of all types. They've never had someone like me, and so I'm having fun making sure that they do it. Also, knowing when a requirement isn't required to be met, knowing that the limits of the project and its funding and the scope, and then knowing how to say, we're not required to do it at this time, so we can move forward without doing something. And that's because as we would love everything to be fixed, but sometimes the project scope is limited to a certain section of an area. And that's when I make that judgment decision as to when it's okay not to touch another area. And that is always a difficult situation because, I always want more, but we can't get more all the time. And in addition to doing that kind of work, I'm also like today I was working all day on inputting all the information of all the facilities that we have into some software that I'm going to be using to do the inspections, to do an assessment of all of them. And that takes time because I have to look at a park differently than when I look at a building versus when I look at a parking garage. And so each of them have different accessibility components. And so with this software, I'm trying to organize each site so that I can, when I go out to the site, I just hit it hard running and then come back with the results and then generate a report that I'm going to be working with. We'll see how it goes. I mean, I'm a little ambitious. I don't know if I'm going to get it done in 6 months, but we'll see. I'm trying to hit as many facilities as I can. In addition to the other duties I have.
Gina Maria?
Is there any questions you have for me?
Yes, Daniel, is that a new software? Have you used it before or?
I'm familiar with it. I've never had to. I'm of the old school with I go out and do an inspection with pen and paper. And I've been tempted to go out and do it with pen and paper, but I promised myself that I would use the software because that's the future of how to keep the transition plan live. So that way, at any moment, we can change it and update it from day to day, from hour to hour, from month to month. And so that it's always keeping up with our progress of however large or small. And so I'm really fighting the issue of going out and doing with paper and pen. So I'm doing the work right now to set it up so I can use the software. So it is a new software. And like any software, it's going to have a learning curve, but I am going to spend that time to learn it. So that way I just get better at it. And it's going to be for the future of this city.
Yeah, everyone. Thank you for doing that.
And then one question I have about that software, because I'm not familiar with it,
Yeah.
is there a way that like if the mayor's committee has recommendations or the public for things that are considered more urgent for physical access or for program access or services access, where we could flag that and say, this is really needed in this community for us to be able to function, or And while it might not be like under the ADA as being a priority, it is for our community. Is there a way to do that? Do you know?
Okay, that's where this software is gonna I'll go through a facility. It's gonna, let's say the slope is not correct. It's gonna cite that section of ADA and how it's deficient and what's required.
Right.
And then let's say we get one report from one building and we feel that this building is important, and of this building, we want the front door to be more accessible. That is the highest priority. Then in there, I can go into the report itself and flag it as a higher priority. I can go in there and say that. But then when you have the whole transition plan, we're going to have to gather all those high priority identified and then see what's that going to cost, because I can even add cost as far as how much each item is going to cost based on someone's recommended estimates, and based on the price of materials and labor, we'll have a guess of how much it would cost. And that will help us to develop a budget for those higher priority issues. And when we'll decide if we can do them in-house with current maintenance people, if it's something that we should bid out to a company to come in and repair. And so the only way we're going to get to that point is that I developed a transition plan with all the individual reports and then go through that and determine what are the necessary priorities that the public's making and what are the priorities that I know are required immediately. That I know that from looking at the places, I know that we can do much better, much faster. So that's where we're going to get the ability to come to those decisions. We will make available those reports and the transition plan for public comment. Some public comment, of course, may be relevant, some may not. Some people might just want to complain about everything under the sun and not offer any kind of input that's useful. So we still want to get that information so we can know what is on the minds of the public. And so, yes, we can modify it. We can prioritize things for our community. And we can ask governing body to help us get those into compliance. But as everyone knows, sometimes you get what you ask for, sometimes you don't.
Right.
And so that's, but what this is helping me do is this, like they're planning to do some renovations on buildings. And so as we go forward, I'm touching on those accessibility items. And so we're getting it done nonetheless. So it's just a lot of areas we're having to attack at the same time. It's just a little, if you were in my brain, you would be a little, you would be very tired. Because I'm always running in my head about moving pieces here and there.
Angelique?
Hi, Daniel. What was the response to the newspaper article, and were there any areas of need that were brought to your attention, or were there any really good comments that were made, or?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was worried about that interview with the press because every time I read the newspaper, I see they're attacking the mayor, they're attacking the city manager. I see that they do that. And they weren't letting me know what they were going to type up or write up. And they asked me personal questions that I was kind of not entirely comfortable. But then I said to myself, I want to be as transparent as possible as an individual. And so I shared of myself with them. And when they asked me a last question last minute the day before, they said, "What's your wife's last name?" I'm, well, duh, she's my wife. And then they wanted to know when was she born? And I was like, I started getting nervous at that moment. I started saying, okay, what are they gonna say? What are they gonna attack? It felt weird. But when they came out with the article, it was nice. It was fair. They did state what I said about historic buildings. And the reaction I got from the community was I got calls and emails about people that they were happy that the city finally brought someone in who can relate to the community of people with disabilities, that can say they understand, that can know that they understand. Because oftentimes other cities will hire someone who is probably a very good architect or a very good engineer or a very good bureaucrat, but they don't understand the true depths of living with a disability or living with a family with disability, and the true difficulties of life in general, and how quality of life is impacted when you don't have accessibility on top of your disability. And so what are the possibilities is what I'm always looking at. How can we re charge the community to feel like there is a better life in the future for the community of people with disabilities? In Santa Fe, I would say there is a lot of potential, and it's going to take not just myself doing my job correctly, but you guys on the committee reaching out to the community to wake them up to come out and get involved in spite of the current inaccessible environment. If like you guys know, I mean, restaurants won't become accessible if they keep saying, well, nobody with a disability comes. Well, then let's show up. I remember being with organizations like ADAPT, and downtown El Paso, um, Burger King didn't want to be accessible. Demanding a ramp. And so I even was able to change the law allowing for Burger King to build a ramp on our public right of way rather cheaply. And so they still wouldn't do it. And so Jack in the Box was a competing restaurant next to them, decided to, for those couple of months, for about a month, give free food to those protesters with in front of Burger King. So they're eating their Jack in the Box in front of Burger King. But what I'm trying to get at is that the community said it's time for an action. It's one restaurant, one ramp, and they made it happen because they chose to be present. And that's what needs to change. That's what causes a lot of change in all communities, is being present. And then I've been here in Santa Fe, and I have not seen that kind of action. But maybe it's not the culture that's here, but that is necessary. I mean, if people with disabilities in the community want to have access, they need to get out in the community in spite of the inaccessibility and be seen, and then be heard and go to city council. I mean, that's what it takes. And it's going to make things difficult for me too internally. I mean, I'll tell you this much. I remember one time when my wife was protesting about curb ramps, and they at City of El Paso, and they would come to my office and they would go to the mayor's office, but that's part of getting things moving. And sometimes it has to be uncomfortable and you have to get it done. And that's what I'm encouraging you and everyone to, in spite of the access issues, Pam, show up to the meeting and request the loop, so that way they get used to the idea that the loop is needed. If no one ever uses it and it gathers dust, it's not a good thing. We need things to be utilized.
Pam, go ahead, and you're on mute, so unmute yourself. You're on mute.
My question, Daniel, is if you've had much experience with the hard of hearing and deaf communities, especially hard of hearing, most people I know do not want to show up. And if they do, they associate it with being old. So they do not admit, they would rather sit in that theater
Yeah.
totally unable to hear and pretend that they're just fine, rather than get a caption reader or any gizmo contraption that has to hang on your head and your neck to have access. Do you have any? I feel like the hard of hearing community's biggest problem is ourselves.
Yeah.
Do you have any words of wisdom for me to use to motivate them to show up?
Yeah.
They want to be invisible.
I remember what Justin Dart said to us. I mean, I knew him back in the day. And at a couple of, he always repeated the same thing, was that as a community, we should not accept crumbs. When we go in for a steak, we should get our steak. And as a member of this society, we are not second class. We go in and we request and require access. And then if they don't have it, we don't leave with and not come back. We come back until change is made. A lot of the changes that are going to occur here in Santa Fe, and while I'm able to be here in Santa Fe, I'm probably never going to see in my lifetime. It's changing the minds of this community and the leadership of this community to put people with disabilities first. I mean, but it takes also people with disabilities to put themselves first. Silence is not golden. Being quiet is not acceptable. You have to speak out and make them uncomfortable. You're uncomfortable not being able to hear. Make them hear you so that you can hear them, and that's what's going to have to happen. I mean, the older generation, I'll say this, that is the norm. They do want to be hidden. But I know of the new generation of students with disabilities who are younger, who don't see it that way. And maybe that's what you need to bring into your organization, is younger people with hearing impairments to help elevate and support the older group, members of your group, so that together they change the world for their world. And that's what I encourage in organizations of mobility impairments, that they bring in younger people, because not everyone of our age knows everything or can do everything, but we need the future to know what needs to happen down the road when we're gone. Who's going to replace Ms. Gish when she's no longer chairperson? Are we planning that? Are we going to bring anyone new into this committee that's younger, that has another perspective? And that's up to you guys, how you reach out to the community. I'm going to do what I can internally. You guys have to reach out externally to the community and make this committee truly the representation of the overall community. There's so many different groups, like your group is here represented in this committee, and we need more groups and more voices and more ideas.
Angelique, you had your hand up. I don't know if you have anything to add.
My niece is hard of hearing, and I know that she uses her AirPods as her hearing aids and uses her phone for closed captioning. That's part of what the youth is using, and I think it's part of making the events at school and stuff accessible. I don't know if it would help others in the community as well or not.
I personally think we're all using these tools um, to get along, but it's public accommodation that's the hardest because I have listening devices. I have a transmitter and a receiver. And if I want to go to a lecture, like at the library, and the historian for the city is speaking, I ask her if she will wear the microphone so that I can wear my receiver and understand her. And she says, I'm not wearing anything. So even if you're an advocate like I am, the public is so uneducated that even when you ask directly for accommodation, they refuse you. And there are workarounds to get the library itself to request that they make this accessible, but the person is so strong in their own appearance that they do not want anything that will mess up their decor, their fashion statement. So yes, all of these things are usable and make things better, but it's even more than the, especially HOH, hard of hearing. It's not just old people. I mean, it's people 50-ish, 40-ish losing their hearing, and they deny for another 10 years. And it's the invisible disability. So all these electronics are making it much easier, but there's a limit. And
I agree with you, Pam. I saw that over and over again in the classroom setting where the teacher or the aides would forget to put their device on and the kids could not hear them. So I know what you're saying.
yes.
Chargish, you're muted.
Gina Maria, do you have something to add?
I was gonna just say, and I'm not an expert. First, I'm not an expert, disclaimer. But I believe that some people can use the AirPods and as their hearing device. It depends on the level of and the type of hearing impairment. There's a lot of different classes. That's kind of a spectrum disorder too.
Yeah. That's a big problem. People do not recognize, like they do with eyeglasses, that your vision is 20/20, 20/30, 20/40, 20. It's a spectrum, but with hard of hearing, you're either hearing or you're deaf.
Same with sight. You have different levels of vision or not.
So we have 4 items that we haven't gotten to, but it is 5:11. And so we do need to table these items. One of them that I am most concerned about is the state of the city address, but I can say that Regina Wheeler did email the mayor to request acknowledgement of the proclamation and flag raising in last July. That to me was like the most important turning of disability inclusion within the city of Santa Fe, is to declare Disability Pride Month and then raise our pride flag and read the proclamation. And so I think that if we can get the mayor to acknowledge that in his State of the City address, I think that that is very important and key. And Regina did request that of him. I think that we can do that outside of the committee. It would be great if we could do a letter. I would have to screen share. It's a draft form. And so I think maybe me and Eli can work together and contact the mayor on behalf of the mayor's committee and just request it directly. Rather than writing a formal letter right now. If I knew the date that it was happening, it would be really helpful, but I know there's no There's nothing set. Pam, go ahead, and then Daniel.
And while you're writing that letter, could you include accessibility for hard of hearing and deaf people?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
a state of the city, but it's inaccessible to us.
Yes. And so I'm gonna recommend that that you pretend tomorrow he's giving the speech. And so
Daniel, I
get on
can't
it.
read your lips.
I'm saying pretend that tomorrow is the time he's going to give the speech. So work quickly. Call.
He froze. He keeps freezing.
He froze.
Frozen.
The address.
Daniel, wait, stop. When you started to say call, that's when you froze for like,
Okay, call Angie Brown, his executive assistant, to get on his calendar. Okay, she will put you on the calendar, and if you want me there, she'll ask me to be there. And that's what will happen. And we can encourage the mayor to take the opportunity to talk about the good things that the city has done, is doing, and will do. That's how you want to frame it. And also to ask him directly to include people of hard of hearing, and that means provide sign language interpreting during the address, the loop system that can be made available for the time at that committee meeting. So let's ask for those things, but go in person and ask for those things. Don't do it on a telephone. He likes to have meetings like that, and he will listen to this group.
Pam, go ahead, and then Angelique.
Okay, I'd like to mention that in the convention center, they have listen everywhere system. It is not a loop, and it has latency in it. Also, I've been asking for captioning. So far, that's not going to happen. So it has to have a ASL interpreter for the deaf. But the main problem is nobody asks and no one comes because they know they can't hear. And so it's a self-fulfilling process. No one asks. No one knows that there's anything available. It's the publicity that has to go out ahead of time. I went to the Santa Fe Playhouse the other night. I know they have a listening system. Well, she looks around and she says, well, no one ever asked for this thing. And I said, do you know why? No. Well, you don't put in your publicity that it's available. So no one comes because they don't want to pay the highest price of a ticket that they know is just useless for them. So this is a free event, but the city has to get used to publicizing its availability every single time. Then when they have other events in the convention center, like the literary festival, they know what is available. It's Listen Everywhere, but it's also an FM system per ADA because you have to have a cell phone to access Listen Everywhere. It's the publicity ahead of time that lets people know you are included. I'm over and over emailing about this. No one listens.
I'm making
Yes.
note of it, Pam, so that I can address it when we meet with the mayor. And and I know that this is an ongoing issue too. This is not new. So I'm very aware of that. So thank you for that summary, and I can make sure that I include that when we talk with the mayor. And also if anything is in writing, I can make sure that that is included from now on. So thank you. We really need to end the meeting, so we need to table, let's see. We did B. Eli's not here for C, D, E, or F. So we need to table item 7C, D, and 7C, 7D, 7E, and 7F until the next meeting. Are there any other matters from subcommittees? is the next item is 8A. No? Okay. Next is matters from staff. And then one thing that's not here is that statement about the including the video in the minutes. So you want to say?
Okay. Okay, let me get to those items.
Okay.
Two things. Two things were the transcripts. Okay. One was what was pointed out to us by partners. At the very top of their documentation, they indicate that this is not a verbatim, that this is their property. They own it. They have copyright to it. And nor do they give permission to anyone to change it or distribute their documents. So we're doing that. When you make a change to it, we're required to identify who made the change. So that's what you noticed recently on the document. We put modified and what date it was modified roughly.
And it's in red.
And
So yeah.
yeah, I put it there. So that way we're being honest. And then I was further informed by the city attorney's office, and the clerk was also informed that these are not to be construed or represented in any shape, form, or fashion as minutes or property of the city.
Right.
That the city has no role in their development or distribution.
Right. And we had requested them for access purposes because these meetings are affecting people with disabilities. So they need to be
Yes.
as accessible as possible. And also for me, for notes, for review, for like
Mhm.
follow-ups, I use them for so many things.
Oh yeah.
Keep
Oh yeah.
track of
And the
everything.
thing is logic. After listening to that, some people in the organization thought that, well, then what is the point of us doing it at all? And I said, because there are going to be individuals with hearing impairments who need access. And it could be access during the time the meeting occurred or during after the meeting. So the availability of these transcripts is essential for those individuals as an accommodation, as an accessible feature. So that's why if someone ever calls me from the public and says, hey, do you have the transcripts for the minutes of this date, then we can send it to them.
Is there
That's
a way
why,
that is there a way we can add that to the website to say that transcripts are available upon
yeah,
request or yeah.
we'll actually, as we redo the website for the ADA office, we'll provide that kind of access to that. So that way someone can make that request. Because as remember, we talked about that there's not even a reasonable accommodation request form, and I need to develop that for us. Okay, second item. What was the other item?
Matters from staff.
No. We know during matters that we were talking about the transcripts and then the link.
Yeah.
Okay, that's another thing that they told us they don't do that. They don't add the link that's available through the overall YouTube subscription. If you go on there, you can get it, but they're not going to add individual links to individual minutes. The
So then that
minutes,
would need to be added to the website then to say that this is our YouTube channel and this is where
yeah,
you the
and
service.
that's where the city's going to have to, on their general site, put the YouTube subscription for all meetings because it affects all meetings. And the good thing about our meetings is that we're doing all of that, and so our video is going to be a little better when it comes to accessibility. And like there's a lot on my plate. So as I move forward with changes that I'm going to try to encourage or institute throughout, is I'm going to want closed captioning for all committee meetings. So that way, at minimum, if you wanted to look at the planning committee meeting, there's going to be closed captioning on the video from prior meetings. And so, but I have to work with the city clerk to have her as a department head make that a standard method of operation. And that's what I'm trying to institute as time moves forward. Little changes start to add up. And that's what I'm working on right now. So if it hasn't been done, it's because I probably haven't gotten to it because I'm in the middle of something else. But but it's gonna be, those are the thoughts on my mind right now, is I want to see this happening throughout. And sometimes you get some resistance because people think it's hard, but it's not. It's just change, and a lot of people hate change. I mean, I think everyone in this meeting can relate to change not being always good and or comfortable, but it's necessary. So we'll get there. We'll get there.
So I've added then for our website that we will need to communicate because I'm trying to keep track of we've requested so many things for the website to make it accessible. But I'm going to add to the website for the mayor's committee pages to add that there are transcripts available.
Mhm.
And that and to link the specific YouTube channel folder. We can link that folder to our website and say that our meetings are here.
Yeah, and they can look them up, and they can look
and then
them
they
up.
can just click the link and go to the YouTube folder specifically for the
But I want also people to be able to access those YouTube meetings for all departments, not just
Yeah.
our
Well, we
meeting.
can do both. We can say like, here's the City of Santa Fe page for YouTube, and then here's specifically the mayor's committee folder if you're trying to find that, because I can tell you that I have tried numerous times to find the mayor's committee folder, and it is not easy to find on there. You
No,
have to search through multiple folders, multiple videos to see anything. It's not easy to find, so it does need to be directly linked to that folder on our page at least.
okay.
for
We'll
the
see
mayor's
what's possible. Now, another thing I want to talk about, if you notice the agenda prior when it was posted had the wrong Zoom link, and when I saw that, I said, okay, I need to change this quickly because what happened at City Clerks, we send them the Zoom link. It was a problem. I went, okay, I just got on the phone and told them I need you to change it now because in case someone's trying to get on.
Yeah, and
We
it's
need
still on the
that.
PDF, just so you know. I did notice that
Yeah.
it's still on but it's not on the HTML version, so.
Yeah, and that's so we changed that. He changed the master file. It's not going to happen again. And I just want to let you know that we were aware of that. I became aware of that just before the meeting. I said, "Oh no, that's why you got an email from me with a Zoom link in case you didn't have it, because we had emailed it to everyone previously." But I said, I need to make sure you do have it in case you're looking around for it and you go to the agenda and it's not the right one. So
Yeah,
that's
and
why.
that's happened before, just so you know. I mean, it
Well,
has happened a couple times, so.
well, I don't want it to happen anymore. So that's
Me
why
either.
I saw that and I went, no, 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 we got to fix this. And so it's been fixed. We'll, and I'm hoping that the meeting is going better than before, that you're getting the information that you need before. Well, again, we'll start to work on the new agenda, and then the transcripts. As soon as we get them, we'll get them to you, and so that we can make those changes. You'll make the changes, and then we'll add them, and then we'll make them available. But again, let's say hypothetically something goes wrong and you can't get to them. Let's say Aurora, you get sick and you can't edit them. Now, I'm not going to say you are, but let's say you just decide you want to take a vacation and not deal with it, more likely. And but so if you have to postpone it a month, it won't be an issue of the minutes. It'll just be the transcripts are not available at the moment, but they will be made available.
Yeah.
So that way you take that pressure off of yourselves, because I know all of you, especially Ms. Gish, you're going through things in life that sometimes you just don't want to do it. And so that happens. All we need to, we're going to take care of the minutes. You'll take care of everything else on that end. And if it's not a rush. So we'll get to it. And we want you to focus more on the issues and moving forward rather than the appearances of anything. You know, the content is what we want to make sure is going forward. and the efforts of changing the city is more important than how it looks. It's messy and we're going to get it done. So let's just worry more about what we're doing rather than how we look. So let's just let's do it that way.
I appreciate the clarification for all of that, and of course, the process of making it go forward is gonna look different, but so I have to like integrate that into how it's going to function and work. But that's fine. As long as I know and as long as it's communicated and we can all be on the same page, that's what's really important. So thank
And
you.
it's hard. It's hard because I understand. I'm a citizen of this country as anybody else, and I have issues with government just like everyone. And I have trust issues of government as well. And not hearing sometimes I can relate to your feelings of, are we being ignored again? Can we trust the city to do something? And that's what I'm having to learn to, well, not learn, I'm having to earn from all of you is I need to earn your trust that I'm working on things. I'm not just out there just doing nothing. I mean, we have to get it done. And yes, I'm listening to all the concerns. Some things can get done quicker than others, and some things are going to take a while. So, I mean, that level of trust, I'm still trying to earn from you guys. And I hope that I do get that.
Thank you, Daniel. I want to like leave at 5:30. Let me get through this. Sorry. So next is matters from the committee. I don't know if we have anything. No, okay. The next meeting is at 5:30. We are ending now. The next meeting is Wednesday, April 3rd, 2024, and we are adjourned at 5:30 p.m. Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Bye.
you.